Yo, yo, yo. Hey, I'm Mark Buckner with the Mark Buckner Group and the Ben Lawless team. I'm here with Remi from BLT. Also, on this channel, at this podcast, we talk everything real estate, everything Chicago, living, buying, selling, renting, taking care of properties. So today, back with Mr. Rem, and I want to talk to you about working with, and whether it's in real estate or in your other areas of professional life. Tell me about the most challenging person you ever had to work with.
Oh my God.
With not giving names, of course,
yeah,
not giving away too many details.
Which one? Well, I would say the most difficult, personality-wise.
There you go.
Was actually a recent interaction where I actually I just fired. I was like, I can't be a part of the deal anymore. I can't be a part of this anymore because it was like, it's unhealthy. So the situation is, and it's more like just like, it's not a particular deal. It's just like the relationship. I'll get into it. So I met this client 2018.
Okay.
She was buying some investment properties she didn't know, well, that's kind of the issue. She didn't know where, but I was guiding her or whatever, but she was all over the place. So I was going all over the city. I was, younger in my career when I was like, super, I'll just do whatever.
Yeah.
And running around the city, from the south side to the north side to the west, everywhere.
Okay.
And opening up doors. And then finally she was just like, she was so needy as well. Like in the regards to like when she called, it was an hour conversation minimum. And at that point I didn't know how to communicate, like protect my time. So I was on the phone with her, outside of the time that I was spending going and looking at these places for her because she lives in Hawaii.
Oh.
Okay.
So were you doing like FaceTime calls?
No, I would just go there, take a whole bunch of pictures, video, and send it to her.
Okay.
That was how we were doing it at that time. And so eventually, it was creating so much anxiety and stress because it was taking up my whole day every day. And I was like, this is not even worth it. And
it's almost like you just had one, you could only allow for one client on your caseload.
Yeah, it was wild. On top of, there's also like, there's some type of mental illness or something. I don't know what's going on there, but like there was something where like she would get into, or they would get into like esoteric, wild stuff, wild conversations. And I'm like,
so we got well beyond real estate.
Yeah, it was well beyond real estate. They were sending me books to spirituality, like that she was like they're in new age spirituality. It was really interesting. So anyways, to get back, we were going out, I was looking at places for her. And then all of a sudden, probably because the communication was kind of getting like, she could tell it was getting tense. She's like, hey, Marshall, that's what she called me, Marshall. And she was like, hey, listen, like, I found a different agent and they're going to help me. And so like, I've invested all this time, this energy.
Tell me when you heard those words, what went through your head? What did you experience in your body? What did you feel?
It was like 50% complete relief and then 50% complete anger and frustration. Like I could like tear my hair out, right?
I literally, my stomach, we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all had a client say, listen, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
After you've gone through it. And I think we have to go through these experiences for us then to be able to start saying no to clients too. Like when we're younger, earlier in our career, we're trying to put some deals together and help some people. But literally my stomach bottoms out. Like literally I just got kicked in the belly.
That's just half of the story. So so like years go by. She buys these investments properties with another agent. Okay. She calls me in, I think it was like the end of February. And
this year?
This year, yeah.
Oh, and fast forward like 5-6 years now.
Yeah. and they mention, hey, I need to sell some investment properties. I'm like, she's like, can you help out? I'm like, okay. And at that point, honestly, looking back, I should have said no. I should have said no. That was what my gut was telling me, but it's hard to it's hard to be like, turn down business. Right. So I was like, sure. 2-3 units in North Lawndale. Okay. So an interesting part of the city. And one is completely vacant. One is, it has, I think it's like 2 of the units are occupied. One is not. I go out there multiple times to the vacant one. I get her multiple quotes from contractors to do some stuff to tee it up and get it ready.
Yep.
I go back to after like, this is like maybe in the middle of March now, or towards the end of March. So it's been like a monthish. I show up with the contractors. We got to go back over there again. And there are squatters in the building.
I've had squatters, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like just when, and there was, the building was completely boarded up.
Yep. I've
And,
had squatters come in on boarded up buildings.
Yeah. So, and it just spirals out of control. She thinks that it's as easy as just being like, you don't live here and you need to leave. Yeah. There's, there was one person turned into, a myriad of people living there, 15, now
So
there's
it's turning into
communal
house.
Yeah.
Communal house, people are getting stoned, high,
Yeah,
shooting up.
And supposedly there's, there are dogs there. There are also kids there. It's just a mess. I am helping her and advising her like, hey, we need to go through the eviction process and like getting her linked. And she's like, no, we need to call the cops. I'm like, okay, let's call the cops. I know what the cops are going to say. Like, so I go to the property multiple times and it's the same outcome. The cops are like, we can't do anything, like we're not doing, and which, ends up in the same scenario of me telling her like, we need to go down this route. This is the proper route to go. And the end of the day, she's not taking my advice. And I eventually just say, this isn't the best. This isn't the best fit. And she goes and she.
So you terminated.
Yeah. And looking back on it, I should have just focused on the other property because the other agent put the other property on the market and it sold in like 30 days. So I was so focused on helping her on this property that I overlooked the other property too. But we were so focused on like trying to get these, squatters out and do all this that that's where the focus was. And
so if you familiar with the disc profile?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not too much, but I know.
So
of it, yeah.
disc profile is a tool to assess people's kind of strengths and weaknesses and personalities to help communicate, and just for people who don't know, and kind of help you with, working with, especially if you have employees or a team, and kind of allows you to get better framework of like who this person's like, right? So D is, they call it desire. I call it, or some people call it a driver. Some people use the different types of birds to describe it. So D, desires, kind of people would describe that as an eagle. We have a conscientious person who's really data driven, analytic, numbers person, call them an owl. We have, we have the influencer who's kind of like that, I would call it a parrot, like the fun, outgoing, chatty, and then we have that kind of person who's really cohesive, really empathic, wants to make nice, do what you ask, more like a dove, right?
Yeah.
So what would you give her? Is she more of a...
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think
I suspect she's a little bit more of a data kind of analytical perfectionist. They also, as a group of, they tend to be right more often than not, because I find that they typically are pretty bright, and they also resort to a lot of data, but they often sometimes don't want to be wrong either.
Yeah.
And I suspect I can get in the weeds with that population, and they can also get a little... People use the catchphrase, I'm going to chop it up, paralysis by analysis. They kind of get paralyzed by over analyzing things. I find, for me, if I struggle with a certain personality type, that's where it's hard, and I have to dig deep and kind of position myself and really think through how I can help them to kind of move them along, to really sort through, do you really want to buy, and do you really understand the steps, and can you take those steps, because you get stuck by overanalyzing things.
Yeah, 100%. Again, I think that this particular client, there was kind of a myriad of hurdles to jump over, like her being out of the state.
That is hard.
Her, them being, not here, not understanding the process here, as far as, with the squatters and going through the eviction process. So there was a number of things that were challenging.
And it's hard. Like, one thing is if you're in East Coast, like 2-hour flight,
right?
It's a little bit of work and a little bit of money, but but doable. But coming over from Hawaii to go see a property in Chicago, it's like not too sexy. Nor do it's that's an 8.
Right.
We're 7-8 hours in the air, just in the air alone. That doesn't include getting to and from airports and all that kind of stuff.
It's, there's a perception about investing in Chicago that is, from out-of-state investors, that is just completely wrong. And what I want to, what I'll say on that is that, they see these homes in certain areas of the city that are very reasonably priced. And, they're running their numbers in these areas completely wrong, in the sense that their expenses are going to be a lot more because of, certain situations and certain, there's just different hurdles, and they don't understand them. And I've worked with a lot of investors that are investing in different parts of the city, and they get chewed up and spit out.
I mean, one is I think what you're speaking to is, what kind of landlord do I want to be, and what kind of, who's my tenant, what type of tenants, what kind of tenant do I want to work with, and what kind of landlord do I want to be, and that can, and there's, there's different problems to the different types of investments, depending on the neighborhood that you're in. So
for sure.
So it's interesting. So, kind of skipping forward a little bit, before I do that. So what would you describe yourself? What are you? You a parrot? You an eagle? You a dove? Or you're an owl?
I'm a combination between, I would say, a driver and a very analytical person. Yeah, I do like to fully understand the logistics of how things work in order to make an informed decision. Like, for example, this house that I'm buying, I don't know for certain these questions, and so I don't feel certain about making a decision. That's not unique to me, but maybe I overanalyze or really try to understand the full situation of of what's happening in order to make a move. So I think I'm slower in decision making, but I'm definitely like very, very proactive in it. Like I will do like, oh, we need to do this. I'll get it done. You know. So I think that's the driver part.
What am I?
I would say driver. I don't think any of the other one, though.
No, you're right. Like the first time I took that, I was like over the top driver, and everything else was like super low. Like I was as strong as a driver as you can get.
Yeah.
Like just foot on the gas. Let's go.
Yeah.
And get it done. And you know, and there's pros and cons. I think when I was probably always a driver, but when I was younger, when I was probably your age and even younger, and I think part of this, I think people tend to be a little more analytic. I think there's something that happens with life experience, right? And so I don't worry nearly as much about certain decisions that I used to when I was in my 20s and in my 30s. And it's just because, I've seen this movie before. I have some idea how this will play out.
Do you know what that's called?
Hindsight?
No, wisdom.
Wisdom?
Yeah.
Wisdom.
As you get older, you're like,
I guess you can call it wisdom, life experience, whatever. But I just even know, like, most people also know there's still a lot of, Ben always talks about me being a perfectionist. And there still is that part of me, much less than it used to be, because I'm just like, I know nothing will get done. I can sit and ponder this all I want, but I got to move forward. I got to get shit done, and something is better than nothing. And this is how I got into doing social media. Like I did a podcast with a guy, with the owner of the gym I go to, and lots of people were asking me like, you got a podcast? It's like, yeah, I guess it's kind of evolved into a podcast. That's what we're doing right now, right? Yeah. We're chatting. But I think back about 3 years ago where I was, first I was paralyzed because I think a lot of people don't like how I look, don't like how I sound. And then for me, I just got like, well, then I'm just going to do nothing. Well, that's not an option. So throw all those fears out the window and just put your foot on the gas and go for it. Yeah. And it just evolves and it gets better over time.
But I think your perfectionism is part of the driver. It's like you want to be the best, and part of being the best is being the best at the craft, and that entails some type of perfection, right? In anything that you do. Yeah. Whether it's an athlete or a real estate agent or whatever.
Which is kind of floating into me for I have some standard questions that I'm starting to incorporate into these interviews.
Love it.
One is, and you're talking about that, and you have it, and that is grit.
Grit, yeah.
Where's it come from for you?
For me, I think it's like growing up playing hockey since I was 3 years old, and just the different coaches that I have. It's just like, I played really serious hockey, and it's just a grind. It could be, third period, you're down 3 goals, and it's just, you have 20 minutes to figure it out. And it just, all of it, you got to lay it all on the table. And there's,
Why do you think some kids, some adults, take the skates off, fuck this. Yeah. I don't need this at 7, 8, 10, 12, whatever. What kept you going? That's the grit. Yeah. Like some people will bail.
For sure.
Not that it's right or wrong, but at some point in time you gotta strap in and just go for something in life, if you want to have a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, and be successful, whatever you do. I think that there's an X factor to the grit. I think everybody would say, yeah, I have grit, but I think it's grit paired with passion, and I think passion is the X factor. If you don't have passion, grit will wear off over time. But if you're not passionate, if you don't love what you're doing, then I think I think I got that from Steve Jobs. I butchered it. He said it more elegantly, but he's like, you'll never keep pursuing your dream if you don't have passion behind it.
So you got to find something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then the grit organically comes along with
yeah,
it.
and some people are just more gritty. They'll get in the trenches, like there are hockey players. I just use the analogy that will get in the corners and and be that annoying nuisance who aren't afraid of anything. And then there's players like, I'll just use one that everybody knows, Gretzky. Like he wasn't a grit player, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have grit. It was just a different style of grit, and he knew his strengths and his weaknesses, and he pursued his dream, and so.
Is grit organic, or can it be taught?
I think it's the nature and the nurture. I think that there is a part of grit that is in a person, but I do think that like if you're hanging out with a Mark Buckner and like it's balls to the wall every day, you're going.
Let's go.
Yeah, you're going to.
So there's some contagiousness to it.
Yeah, it's your environment. Like if you want to be the best player, you cannot practice with people who are below you. You have to raise your game. You have to, and that takes a level of confidence because most people are like, oh, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to get in the ring with or on the ice with Sidney Crosby, or I don't want to get on the ice. But that's the only way you're going to get in the same arena or understand how their mind works.
You give me the chills and almost a little tear to my eye because probably one of my mentors was my wife's father. And he always, and I'm going to butcher this phrase, but basically he said, he had a few things. One is nothing happens sitting on the sidelines. Get in the fucking game. You can sit on the bench all you want, but nothing's going to happen there. You got to get in the game. Another thing he would talk to, and my wife probably has it better, it's hard to fly with eagles if you're sitting around with a bunch of turkeys and chickens, right? Like that's what you're talking about. Like if I really want to get good, I got to hang with the top quality players, right? Like I may get my ass handed to me, whether it's whatever industry, whether it's a sport or an industry that you're in, but I need to be around someone to learn and grow, check my ego, absorb it so they can raise my bar and help me raise. And I agree. When I was with my coach, we were talking about what is contagious about CrossFit. And part of it is the effort that you put in as a result of the group fitness process activity, right? You're in a group, you're doing this together. Sometimes it's a partner workout. Like sometimes there's 4 people in the group and you're not going to bail. That one's kicking ass. What are you you're going to be the one who holds everybody back.
Right.
So, which takes me to my next question, because you have transitioned for the most part out of production into the director of operations.
Yeah.
How does that come about?
I think so. When I joined Ben's team, I don't do well if there is like, I think that this is kind of unanimous amongst all entrepreneurs, but if there is a ceiling, I'm out. I could be making like substantially more money. But if there's a ceiling and I know that, I'll choose something without a ceiling because I like that, I don't know.
Room for growth. Yeah.
And I like the challenge. I like, so when I joined the team, I just, was like, I'll do whatever. I'll do this, I'll do that. And Ben put a lot of trust in me to handle clients and gave me other, opportunities to roles to step into. And I just found them interesting and exciting. And I do like, business and growing business. And this was kind of just a natural fit. And like I said, I'm like very analytical and like logistics. So systems, when you're running a team of 30 agents and hoping to expand and grow, you need to have really tight systems. So it was kind of a natural fit. And I think Ben is a good talent scout, and he can find the right players. And right now I'm just, you know, he's, you know, I just have an opportunity that is a good fit for what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I think when you talk about yourself as part driver, part conscientious, like what you describe your strengths of is a good fit of exactly what you're talking about and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which kind of is that second part of that question, which relates to grit. So you interview and bring on team members, right?
Yeah.
Is that part of your role?
Yeah, right now, yeah, it is.
So how do you tease out whether someone has some grit?
That's a good question. I mean, right now, in my experience,
I'm assuming that's something that you guys are kind of looking for at times.
Yeah,
someone who's going to hit the street, hustle, help the team
100%.
grow, allow the team help them to grow, right?
Yeah.
Give and take.
It's really, I don't know what the formula is, and I've been right on some agents and I've been dead wrong on some agents, and the things that I thought, it's just like, at the end of the day, it's an educated guess. You know, I mean, we put them through a similar disc profile. It's an Enneagram. I don't know if you took if you took the Enneagram.
I still haven't taken it.
Oh, okay. I'll work on that then.
What's it called?
It's called an Enneagram test. I think you would enjoy it.
Yeah, I would. I just at the time, I was just so busy. I was like, I'll get to this.
Right. So next year we'll talk and we'll see if you got to.
I have a few moments right now. I should do it. Yeah. Actually,
it'll take you. It'll take you an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. 45 minutes to an hour.
All right.
So, you know.
All right. So you utilize that tool to help tease it out.
Yeah, and there are some correlations between, you know, these profiles and successful agents. So that's one, but they're not always correct.
No.
I think that is honestly probably the best tool that we have. You know, if I'm going off my own intuition, or if, you know, Ben is, you know, we've been right and we've been dead wrong a lot of the times.
Yeah, it is. Hiring and finding the right people is tough. I do find I can tease out the grit or the odds of them having that work ethic that I'm looking for tends to correlate more with how they were raised and what their life experiences were. So if you came through the door and was telling me about your hockey experiences, it's like, shit, this guy may have it. Yeah. This guy, just like you're telling me about how hard you've worked, and I even know more about your personal life. I was like, this guy's someone who wants to rise to the top, and he's shown it in his early stages of development. And I'm willing to, it's like my hairs on my back will curl up. It's like, I'm going to go with this guy. Like I can see it. I can see it. Doesn't always work out, but I find my odds of finding that person go up dramatically.
Would you say also just being completely straightforward, not sugarcoating, not even not sugarcoating, but make things sound even worse than they are is what I kind of do. Is I'm like, listen, there's a perception of like getting into real estate and you're going to make all this money and blah, blah. It couldn't be more from the truth, in my opinion. It's an extreme grind. Bank on 2 years of just complete grind, like until you reach any level of success in the business.
Yeah, you just have to love it. I mean, there's a lot of parts that I and there's so many aspects of it that can evolve and grow that you love, and you've touched on them. So, listen, one last question for you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you go. What's your why?
My why?
We talked about it this morning, actually. Fields visited it, and I walked out of the room when it was your turn.
He asked me?
I'm assuming you were in the room at one point when we were in the team huddle.
Like the one word?
Yeah. What's your why?
I mean, my why is to like build a life that I have complete, you know, freedom. And it sounds like, I guess, like generic, but I just want to be able to do the things that I want to do on my time and be able to, most importantly, provide and give that to my kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, you know, similar to probably those who have offspring.
I'm going to give you 2 words.
Yeah.
College tuition.
Those ones pop up in my dreams. So, yeah.
College tuition, baby.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Looking forward to it. I mean, I'm going to tell both my kids, hey, listen, you know, if you're not sure about what you want to do, don't rush into anything. Yeah. Yeah, it's college tuition.